More than 3/4 of Americans cutting back on spending in effort to navigate persistent inflation, according to the latest Wells Fargo Money Study. Here with more on the study's findings and what it tells us about the U.S. consumer, I'm joined by Michael Liersch, who is the Wells Fargo Head of Advice and Planning. Michael, great to have you back here in studio with us this time. So let's start there. How does the cutback in spending compare or stack up to last year?
So last year, it was about 67% of Americans say they were going to cut back on spending. But what's more interesting, Brad, is the generational cut. So think of those Americans in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. They're cutting back the most, but in favor of saving and investing. So the majority of those audiences say they want to save and invest more this year as well.
Okay, so they just want some time in the market here, based on some of the other conversations we had earlier today as well. Many Americans are delaying, it seems, as well, the plans of, other just broader life goals as well as part of that spending pullback. Where are you seeing them cut back specifically?
So it's interesting. We're seeing vacations in particular being where a lot of people are making trade-offs. And that makes sense, and they're not saying they're not going to do them. They might be delaying them, doing those vacations a little bit differently, maybe, again, cutting back on expenses. And you had a lot of the kind of home data. A lot of people are reconsidering when they want to do a home renovation or relocate or buy a new home. So there's just a lot of uncertainty out in the marketplace right now, and people are trying to make those good trade-offs so that they can sustainably, Brad, meet their savings and investing goals.
So not quite taking the White Lotus trip, but maybe just popping over to the beach or something for a weekend. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Turning here as well to sticker shock, because this was interesting as well. How are Americans across different incomes just feeling about prices right now?
So when Americans, we ask them about very basic things, tank of gas, going out to eat, and buying a bottle of water. So think about a bottle of water. Americans said they expected to pay about $1, Brad, and they really paid $3. So in just those life basics, they felt like inflation had really caught up with them. And that's what's driving a lot of this reprioritization, which is actually exciting because people want to align their values with how they're spending rather than just going through life and doing things more out of convenience.
Was there a specific item that jumped out to you that costs more right now than people expect, that's catching them off guard?
So birthday and holiday cards actually caught me a bit off guard. So it was $3 that people expected to pay, and then they turned over the card and they were paying $6. And you can imagine at the holidays, and people probably remember it very recently, that can be a lot of money if you're buying 5, 10 cards for your friends and family.
Yeah, all right. Good for me. I have a binder. I save everybody's cards that they give to me, so just know I keep them. So as we're thinking about where people can ultimately find some relief here as well, what tips do you have for those who are looking at the sticker shock or looking at the prices of things or even delaying some of the life plans and just trying to get into better stature to position themselves to be able to execute on all of the things on the vision board?
Absolutely. So I'm going to anchor in what Americans told us. So they said they wanted to reset their financial habits. And when we looked at the data, though, they were also keeping money kind of a secret in terms of what they were doing with it. So what I would encourage Americans to do is find a trusted partner or professional, Brad, and really share what's going on with their money. And then in that way, to your point, have that goal board, align what you're doing with your money, with your values, and how you intend on spending it. The second thing Americans said, and I mentioned this, is that it's the right time to save and invest now. So in the same vein, what does that mean to you? How much do you want to save? What are you investing for? Is it retirement? Is it just to build wealth? Really focus on that and get it done, because Americans said the time is now to save, invest for your future, and also to make sure you're being very intentional about it.
I'm going to marry together two thoughts here. One in the conversation that we're having, and then another in what we were discussing the other day with layoff anxiety that's very real right now for many Americans, as shown up in one of the studies that we were discussing just yesterday. As you're kind of thinking through the number of people in the workforce that have that anxiety about layoffs and also trying to monitor their finances, is one translating into, or at least transpiring into, purchase habits as well and perhaps having some impact there?
So we did look at income data.
Okay.
And so for those people who are higher earners, I will tell you, Brad, they're still saying they want to cut back on spending this year, and about half are saying they want to do that for the highest earners. So to your point, you could call it anxiety, you could call it uncertainty, whatever you want to call it. People are aware that there's uncertainty in the economy, and they want to manage to it. And what's great about it is Americans aren't just living their lives and going about business as usual. What they want to do is take control and agency of their own financial lives and future.
Some really great insights and context here. Michael, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Great to see you too.